and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about what it is like to work as a yacht chef. Now, I started yachting in 2013. I dabbled a bit as a stewardess, a deckhand, but I've spent the last 4 years as a chef working in the galley, and this video is going to be all about that. You know, I love working on boats, I love cooking, so being a yacht chef is like the perfect job for me. All right, let's start at the beginning. What is a yacht chef? Now, basically, it's a chef that works on a yacht, duh. So the difference between being a chef on land and a chef on a vessel is basically the environment. You're on a boat, the boat is moving, you're having to stow things, you're being very careful when you're cooking, you might get seasick, which is not very nice. Another huge difference is the fact that a restaurant is a business designed to make money, whereas a yacht is basically like a money vacuum. You know, yes, you can offset costs by chartering the vessel, but typically it is not designed to turn a profit. Now, another one would be the fact that in a restaurant, you are cooking the same menu pretty much every day, whereas on a yacht, that is certainly not happening. Every day, every meal has to be different. Being creative within the constraints of what food you have on board is a skill. Not only that, but you have to be skilled in a wide array of cuisines: Mediterranean, Indian, Chinese, Japanese, Italian, Middle Eastern. One day the guests might want sushi, the next they might want a big, beautiful meze spread. So as a yacht chef, you have to be very adaptable and know your cuisines very well. Being able to make fresh tortillas or ramen noodles, it's those extra skills which really help you as a yacht chef. Yacht chefs also pride themselves on making a lot of things from scratch. I make all my own bread on board, all the sorbets, the ice creams, the desserts. You know, other chefs will bring their own sort of specialities, maybe cheese making, chocolate making. I like to make kombucha and bottle it so that gets served to the guest. All these little extra things that you can bring as a yacht chef really adds to the guest experience. So there are 4 parts that kind of make up a yacht chef role. The first one is the cooking, which is the fun one. Let's start at the top, the cooking, and who does it. Now, it depends on the length and the volume of the vessel, but a general guide is that if a vessel is between 24 meters and 55 meters, there is just a sole chef on board. Between 55 to kind of 80 meters, there'll be 2 chefs, and then anything above 80, then we starting to talk about, you know, 3 chefs, 4 chefs, so on and so forth. I have had the most experience in a 2-chef galley, so that is what I'm going to be talking about today. So the head chef's main role is cooking for the guests. Most yachts take up to 12 guests, give or take a few extra for the odd dinner party. Prior to guests arriving, we typically get a preference sheet that details a whole bunch of information. It lets us know what they enjoy eating, drinking, any dietaries, and then we can plan accordingly. It gives us the style of service they like, maybe like buffet breakfast, family style lunches, plated dinners perhaps, or, you know, if they like silver service or casual barbecue. It helps both the galley and the interior team sort of tailor the service to what the guest wants. So the head chef prepares every single aspect of the guest's food, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinners, canapes, snacks, midnight munchies. I have certainly been woken up at 2 a.m. for a sort of midnight snack. The strangest request I ever had was from a very well-known rap artist who at 2 a.m. had a craving for chicken livers and grits. So the sous chef's role is to support the head chef. They basically take control of the crew food, so the crew is their baby. They manage planning the crew menu and cooking for all the crew and things like that. And then any extra tasks that the head chef needs them to do, they then take that on board. The crew food takes up a lot of time. A lot of chefs will say it's actually harder to cook for the crew than it is for the guests because they can be pretty fussy. Sometimes they're doing intermittent fasting. They don't like tomatoes or blue cheese or something like that. You know, maybe they just want salads, so they want to be healthy. But then you see them going and eating a bunch of chocolate each night. You know, I just don't understand. But yes, that is the sous chef role, cooking for crew and supporting the head chef. All of the 2 chef galleys that I've worked in, either as a head chef or a sous chef, have been very team orientated. We're working very closely together. You know, if the head chef has service, the sous chef is in the sink, washing up their dishes, helping support them during the service, whatever they need, and vice versa. No space for egos or anything like that in a yacht galley. It's such a small space, and it is really important that both chefs support each other. So next up, let's talk about provisions and stock management. So as I've spoken about in previous videos, I can either use a provisioning company or I can go do it myself. But either way, food needs to get from the land and be brought on board. And once it's on board, I then have to take care of it, put it away, make sure it stays, fresh, and use it in the correct order and make sure it's restocked. So I am always monitoring how much we have on board of fresh produce, dry goods, meat and seafood, and I'm constantly talking to the captain about when I will next be able to bring provisions on board, because it depends if the boat is moving from one place to another or if we're going to be underway for a long passage. You're always thinking ahead about the next port, trying to make contacts there about where the best supermarket is or who the best provisioner is to organize that and have that ready for you when you arrive. It depends on the size of the storage, but typically I'll take a frozen meat and seafood order every 2 to 3 months. I'll take a large dry goods order every month, and then a fresh produce and dairy order will maybe be every week to 2 weeks, depending on how many guests and crew that we have on board. Basically, I'm always keeping tabs on things, making sure that I'm refilling my galley containers because this helps me have a smooth service. I'm pretty much monitoring everything to make sure we don't run out, because it's not like I can just pop down to the shops, bring my wholesaler to come and drop something by because we might be in a really remote place, or even in Alaska we would be getting provisions by seaplane, and the logistics of that sometimes are just mental. So to be a yacht chef, you have to be very, very organized with that kind of thing. Let's talk about cleaning and galley management. Much less glamorous, I'm afraid, but it is essential very regularly doing full deep cleans of the freezer, the walk-in, all the dry storage spaces, the galley. Potentially a guest could walk in at any second, so you want to keep it looking spick and span. It's so important each morning to kind of check on the produce and what needs to be used. If the zucchini is looking a little tired, well, guess the crew are going to be eating a lot of zucchini, etc., etc. As a chef, you're working very closely with the interior team to provide the best service possible. You're working with the chief stewardess to coordinate service times, you're discussing which wines to pair with the food, you're choosing which plates to serve on. The service team are basically the eyes of the galley. They're up there, they're watching the guests, and it's very important that we're always on the radio talking to each other about what's happening. So let's talk about the galley itself. Now, it's got to be a nice space because we do spend a lot of time in the galley. The general sort of equipment that we have in the galley, typically you'll find induction or electric hobs on yachts because you can't have a naked flame on a vessel because of insurance reasons. Ovens, more often than not, you'll have a combi oven, so it does both steam and normal heat, which is really good. You might have a grill or salamander, definitely a fridge and a freezer upstairs in the galley, and if you're lucky, a walk-in fridge and freezer elsewhere on the boat, hopefully only one set of stairs away. A stand mixer like a KitchenAid or a Kenwood, a food processor like a Roku, sous vide machine, a vacuum sealing machine. These are all kind of like the essentials. And then you get to the more sort of expensive bonus items like a PacoJet, real top of the line ice cream churning machine. Also a Thermomix, incredibly valuable to have. Not only does it blend, it also cooks, it stirs. You can kind of pop it in, set the timer, leave it to go. So it's like having an extra chef in the galley. Thermomix, if you're watching this, I love you. Uniform. Typically you'll have a more casual uniform when it's just crew on board, but when the guests are on board, it is chef whites. You're looking smart, and you could potentially also have a option for the evening, because as I said, the guests do sometimes come into the galley, or you're asked to head out to the table after dinner to talk to the guests. So it is important that you're looking smart. Now, finally, let's talk about budgets and accounting. Yay, so much fun. Typically there is a crew budget. It's usually around kind of 17 euros to 25 euros per person per day, so very easy to keep within those constraints. However, when it comes to guests, I have never ever actually had a budget for guest food. These clients want the best possible experience. They have no monetary limits in delivering it to them. You know, caviar, Kobe beef, white truffles from Alba, sushi rolls covered in gold leaf, all of the above. There are no profit margins to worry about, so it actually gives you a huge amount of creative freedom. A fantastic chef to follow would be the Yacht Chef, my friend Dean. So we work together on Motor Yacht Arients. He does some incredible things working with very high-end luxury ingredients, and he certainly showcases them to the best of his ability. Now, the end of the trip is when things get interesting when it comes to invoicing and sending across the receipts and everything like that. So basically, you're in charge of compiling all the charges. You then send that off to the management company and they take care of the payment. But you know, you still really have to make sure that you keep all your invoices, you track your receipts, and that you don't lose your credit card, because that is bad. So those are the 4 main parts, and you can see it's a big job. You know, kind of a general day in the life, depending on the guest routine. You would wake up at sort of 6, 7 a.m, get your bread on for the day, so start baking, start your breakfast prep, serve breakfast to the guests. Now, as soon as breakfast is done, straight into lunch prep, straight into prepping dessert for lunch. And once guest lunch is over, that kind of gives you a window where you can go for a break if you're organized. So after the break, straight back to work and into it, prepping for dinner and canapes. So you gotta do canapé service, then dinner service might start at 9 p.m. and then you might round up service around 11 p.m, clean down the galley, kind of look at what you need to prepare for the next day, putting some dough on, feeding the starter, getting the meat pulled out, you know, planning the menu for the next day, and then you start it all again the next day. So you can see when it's a 3 to 4 week trip, it can get very exhausting. It's a very stressful, high pressure job, particularly because it is a creative role. You're constantly having to come up with new and exciting things, so it can be an extremely draining role. But I still love it. I still love it. Now, the reason why anyone would be a yacht chef is obviously because they love cooking, but also there are huge perks to this job. You don't have a budget to work to, you have a lot of creative freedom. You are traveling, you're getting to see beautiful places in the world, and the pay can be excellent. The Dock Walk salary guide, Dock Walk is a fantastic magazine. I just want to note here, I actually write a column for Dock Walk, so head on over, check out their chef column, dishing it up, because that's me. As stated in the Dock Walk salary guide, the pay for a head chef on a kind of 55 to 60 meter vessel is between $7,500 to $10,000 US per month. So that is the reason why the pay is very good there. So to round it all up, the single most important thing that a yacht chef needs to be is flexible. You might have created this incredible menu, typed it all up, it's been presented to the guests, and they've said, oh, you know, we don't actually feel like that. Can you come up with something else? And you've just got to remain calm, cool, collected, and roll with the punches. They might walk into the galley 30 minutes before lunch service and ask for churros for dessert. Just nod. That's basically what you got to do. Now I'm going to round up with a very quick little Q&A. I did put a post on Instagram saying, if you had any questions about being a yacht chef, hit me up. So I've got them all here. Do you snack all day while cooking? Yes. Yes, I do. I have to taste everything I'm cooking, so I'm constantly nibbling, eating little bits. It's a bit annoying because you never actually get hungry. You're always just kind of semi-full. What type of requests have you had to decline because of the limitations of the kitchen? I personally haven't had any situations like this, but my friend was asked to slaughter a goat for a special ceremonial dinner, and she unfortunately had to decline because she did not have the space or the skill to do that. That's a very rare story. Do you have a customer preference that you find most difficult to cook for? Actually, I had a low sodium, a very low sodium or zero sodium guest, and this was actually really hard, only in the fact that because everything just had to be cooked separately for that person. So no matter what it was, they had their own pot, their own pan, and I just put 0 salt on it. Luke has asked, who cooks when you are sick? And now, if I'm sick, it's pretty much a guarantee that a lot of other crew are feeling sick as well. So they're not gonna feel like eating. But really, if I am so sick, or whoever else is in the galley with me is so sick that we can't cook, There is always food in the crew mess, whether that's leftovers or toast or ham and cheese in the fridge, cereal. Don't worry, the crew don't starve. They will always find something to eat. Oh, I love this. What sort of meal has been the least popular, or what dish has garnered the worst reaction? I have struggled to serve crew lamb. I don't know what it is, but typically crew don't like lamb, which is really weird. But also I tried serving a Korean soup, which is a tofu and kimchi soup. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce it correctly, but it did not go down well. Which is a shame because I loved it, but it was a total fail. Yeah. When on land, McDonald's or Burger King? I'm a McDonald's girl every day. I love cheeseburgers. What is the worst part about being on the boat? That's an easy one. It is not having your own space. You know, you're sharing a cabin and you're also sharing a crew mess. So you can't really escape anywhere. You have very little privacy. So that is the hardest part of what I find working on board yachts. This is a really good one. Is there anything that can't be cooked or done food-wise on board a yacht? Yeah, I tried smoking a brisket and it was just such a fail. So there you go. Thank you so much for those questions. I love hearing from you guys. Now I do have plans to be back on board very shortly. More on that in a future video. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. Make sure you hit subscribe and I will see you next time.